Yeah, so as James said today, I want to kind of talk about a subject that's actually been mentioned a few times today already, and that's using television and offline media generally in order to drive app acquisition. Before I go into my presentation, first couple of slides of which you've already seen, I just want to kind of introduce my talk by showing you an ad that we had on TV in the UK pretty recently for one of our Chinese clients, and I've always wanted to say this: run VT.
To build an empire, first you must conquer. To reign victorious, first you must seize power. With over 50 million downloads worldwide and free online war strategy. To rule supreme, first you must fight with fire and steel in a clash of kings. Clash of Kings. Download free on mobile and tablet now.
Okay, so that's a TV campaign that we recently ran in the UK and have now extended to the US. What I am going to talk about here is how we kind of attribute app success to television channels and our unique or our different way of optimizing and buying television as we go along. So, little introduction. So, as James said, I'm Richard. I run a mobile agency called The Mobile House. We do all the stuff you expect mobile agencies to do: ASO, app acquisition, tracking, analytics, stuff like that. But the reason that I'm here to talk about TV today is that we sit within a wider group of agencies called the Specialist Works, and within that agency we have a very specific and very specialised TV buying agency, and it's actually my work that I've been doing with them that's kind of enabled us to come up with this new way. So we have a number of individual channels within the Specialist Works. There they all are: online, offline, TV, data, everything you could think of. And although we're UK-based, we have a few European offices as well. So we work with clients mainly around driving digital response, whether that's to web or to app. We don't mind, as long as the clients get the ROI and response that they are after. 125 people, and we've won a few awards along the way as well. Okay, so as has been mentioned a few times today, we only get 15-minute slots, so quite a big subject to tackle, TV buying. So the way I thought I'd go about it is, the reason that I kind of approached James to do this talk is that I went to the London event in the summer, which was another fantastic event just like this, and TV became more and more of a hot topic. And the feedback that we were getting, certainly from the stage, was, yeah, TV is really, really great because of its mass reach and because of its potential for acquisition, but it can't be optimized. It's kind of inflexible, and it's kind of, you spend X amount of money and then kind of something happens over here, and to tie everything together is difficult, if not impossible. So that got me thinking, actually, and I went away and kind of examined how and what we can do to improve that, to give some kind of clarity and visibility as to whether your TV campaign has worked or not from an app promotion point of view. So the first myth that I want to kind of tackle is that TV buying is an inflexible process. The second one that I want to look at is TV buying agencies are not necessarily response-focused. They don't speak the same language as most of the people in this room. And then the third one is actually how do you go about tracking the effect that TV has on apps? How can it be done? And how is it that we do it? So the first one, TV buying is inflexible. Well, actually, for 90% of the ads that you see on TV, that's probably correct, actually, because TV as a medium is about brand and is about awareness and is about huge reach, and actually, tweaking and altering a TV campaign on the back of data or on the back of response rate, just people don't do it, really, because that's not really what it's there for. To use a UK example, if you're John Lewis and you are launching your TV ad, then actually, fine-tuning and moving the budget around and trying to make the maximum ROI from the budget that you have, that's not the point of it, right? So TV agencies usually set themselves up to do what the clients want, and the clients usually want big reach, lots of exposure, and not a lot in the way of kind of analytical results. For some primetime television, so again, the Saturday evening things, it is very common that a 2-month booking deadline is required. That in itself, obviously, is an inflexible process. If you use it for your TV buying, if you use a huge kind of network agency, then they, by and large, have preset trading deals that are set up at the beginning of the year, whereby a certain amount of their ad spend is committed to certain broadcasters, regardless of whether actually that's the right strategy for that client or not. There are kind of agreements to be made and commitments to be fulfilled, which of course makes it harder for them to be flexible because they're kind of tied into a certain network or a certain broadcaster, regardless of whether it works or not. But the point is they don't know whether it works or not because they're not doing the tracking and attribution. So as I say, they're kind of contractually bound to put this business through these channels. So again, from the talks that I heard at the London App Promo Summit, that was certainly what a lot of the app companies that were on stage were saying, that they wanted to go onto TV, but they found that they either had to go with big TV buying networks for whom tracking and optimization is just not on their to-do list, or they did it themselves, because they felt that they had a better understanding of what their app KPIs were, so they found that there was no agencies out there, or there was no way of running these campaigns that suited them from a flexibility point of view. So the first thing to say is that smaller agencies don't necessarily have those trading deals. So trading deals for the big broadcasters and networks are good because you get a bit of money back and you benefit from the scale of the amount of advertising they're buying. Smaller agencies don't necessarily have this buying power, and therefore maybe don't get access to the primetime spots. But if you're looking for ROI and your budgets are not in the millions and millions of euros, then those primetime spots are probably not for you anyway. And they can move the spend around more freely. So this is a kind of an example really of how the traditional TV buying agency works. So that dotted line is basically where the planning ends and the execution begins. So as you can see, the beginning of the campaign, the agency's working flat out, putting plans together, doing lots of demographic targeting, making sure that the reach is there, that the audience is correct. Then there is a period of booking where obviously the ads get scheduled. And then there's nothing really. There's a wait for those 2 months while the time ticks down before the campaign goes live. The campaign is live then for however long it is, and the agency's role is just to make sure that the campaign is live. And then at the end of it, there is a little bit of analysis and a little bit of reporting as to how it went. Pretty hands-off, pretty, let's say, not a lot of interrogation going on. Very much sign off X amount of money and see you in 2 months to see how it goes. Now, the more flexible approach is like this. So, again, using a smaller agency, using a more flexible agency, the planning and the booking can take place kind of straight away. If you're not interested in those primetime slots, and from an ROI perspective, when it comes to apps, you probably wouldn't be. The gap between the booking taking place and the campaign going live is a lot shorter. And then through the data that you're getting through the tracking and attribution, which I will go on to talk about in a second, there's an opportunity to do in-campaign optimization. So there's an opportunity to look at how the campaign is performing from an app perspective, where the downloads are coming from, where the users are coming from, the sales are coming from, and then moving that budget around. So you're not committed to seeing the plan out that you've signed off 2 months in advance. You have the opportunity to optimize and to move the money around as you see fit. From an agency perspective, it's a lot more work because you're continually looking to change and optimize and move. But from a client's perspective, you're getting regular feedback, regular data as to how the campaign is going and what kind of an effect it's had on your business. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, TV buying agencies are not response focused. Well, as I've just said, that's true, right? Because they are brand and they are reach and all those things that I just mentioned. It comes back to the issue of trading deals. It's in their interests to set up deals at the beginning of the year and kind of not have to worry necessarily about response or campaign performance. Having said that, it does have its advantages. Mainly, that the trading deals trigger big rebates. So if you're lucky enough to have millions of pounds to spend on TV advertising, and actually, if you're Clash of Clans or if you're Candy Crush, and it's just about exposure and it's about getting your game in front of as many people as possible, then actually all the stuff I'm about to talk about in terms of attribution and tracking is probably not as relevant. But if you're an app publisher for whom TV is kind of the first step or an additional acquisition channel, then you're going to want to know whether it's working or not. So if you want to use TV for brand, these agencies are the ones to use, because as I say, generally it's used for branding, not for response. So that's how the TV buying agencies set themselves up, but I suppose what I'm here to say is that it doesn't have to be that way. Okay, so moving on to the methodology as to how we do it and how we run these campaigns and report the data back. As with most things, of course, it comes down to tracking and attribution. So there's the three major players in this space currently: AppsFlyer, Tune, and Adjust. The way that we do it, and the way that it seems the most sensible and logical way to do this, is to interrogate, when your TV campaign is live with an app call to action, is to interrogate the effect that TV has had on your organic download data, of course, because they are the ones that can't be automatically attributed to a mobile advertising source. Getting that organic download data, that time-stamped organic download data, is really key to the first step to really kind of beginning to understand whether your campaign is working well or not. Obviously, if people in the room know about these attribution tools, I'm sure you do. It's not just downloads that are counted, it's downloads and opens. From an organic perspective, by and large, they tend to be some of your best users you're going to get. So if you can, of course, you should move your TV budget and your activity around to make sure that you're maximizing these organics. Then there's plenty of tools that exist in order to attribute downloads to spots, like Advance. We set up an organic install attribution window between 5 or 10 minutes, and then on basic level, any organic download that takes place during that window is attributed to that TV spot. Going forward, it's actually possible to get a lot more data from the organics. So by using IDFA data, we can actually start to track things that happen in-app as well as just the downloads, and this is potentially where it gets quite exciting. When we then overlay the cost of the TV spot onto the actual download attribution, then the data starts to get useful. We can start to report on cost per install by TV station, by time of day, by day part. I'm going to do an example of a sports betting company in a minute, where we can look at kind of football programs over golf, over cricket, over tennis. This is probably the second ugliest slide you'll see all day. The first one is around the corner, so wait for that. So this is kind of the timestamped IDFA data that we can get through from an organic perspective. So straight away it gives us the time that we can then attribute back to the TV spot, the IDFA, and the device in the country. That's the base level. But as I say, you can go further than just downloads. So rather than just getting a CPI, we can start to look at cost per registration, cost per sale for those same metrics. By matching the IDFAs that have set up in those tracking attribution windows back to the downloads. Which means basically we can get the same level of response data for TV prompted organic response as we do for pay for ads. So here is the winner of ugliest slide of the day. You can see here we've got IDFAs for installs, registrations and sales. So what that means really, so here's some indication, because I'm conscious of time, of the kind of information we can get back. So this is for a sports betting company in the UK. This was 9 months worth of data, I think, that went into this. So what we were able to do straight away is show, in relation to the cost that was spent per TV channel, how many installs were driven from that. So straight away you can see that the Sky Sports channels are expensive, and from an attribution point of view are not necessarily generating installs, whereas the BT Sports channels are cheaper and seem to be more effective. Now, the reason for that, of course, is because the BT Sports spots are cheaper, we can afford to buy more of them. Therefore, there's more attribution windows, therefore more organic downloads can fall into that. I hope I've explained that properly. We can then go on to kind of download to deposit conversion. So this is matching back the IDFAs. So we can actually look at the sport that the TV ad is running in and start to look at actually, whether that's providing ROI. So in this perspective, football was by far the most expensive. Of course, live football in the UK is the most expensive sporting airtime you can buy. But what was really interesting to us is that although football was the most expensive, actually for conversion from download to deposit point of view, it actually held its own. And when we start to look at the amounts of money that are being deposited for football bettors versus golf bettors, actually it kind of proved that strategy that football was not only where they had to be, but actually was quite a lucrative position and lucrative sport for them to be in as well. So, as I said earlier, if you are just setting up 10-minute attribution windows for everything, then the most effective TV campaign you could ever have would be 1,000 TV spots which were 2 seconds long, because then there'd be tons and tons of attribution windows for the organics to fall into. So we've kind of taken it a step further as well to try and drill down and get some more usefulness out of this data. So we factor in TV ratings as well. So we've already got attribution windows and we've got cost. Now we've got actually ratings, so the amount of people that viewed the ad. Otherwise, as I say, the channel with the most spots will look the best. So there's an example here at the bottom of this sports betting company. So they had an ad in live Premier League football on Sky Sports 1, and then they had an ad at 3 a.m. on ESPN for baseball. And in both of those situations, these are hypothetical by the way, in both these situations, the number of downloads, registrations and deposits attributed to those two spots were exactly the same. But of course, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because one is Premier League football and one is in the middle of the night. So we can assume straight away that the organics happened in the middle of the night happened for another reason, okay? So we can start looking at where the app is in the app chart. We can start cross-referencing that to organics. So the way that we do it is that we set the TV ad that had the most viewers at 100%, and then we scale down from there on audience size, okay? So in the context of this baseball ad, we adjusted it by 75% because the audience for that baseball game was 75% of the audience of the football game. So straight away now we're starting to not only to attribute app activity to TV spots with a cost, but also get a real feel for the level of accuracy in those organic downloads as well. But all of this organic data is only really valuable if it's used. So, we can go as much of this information as we can and get as much of this data as we can. But if it's not used to optimize your TV buying as you go along, then what's the point, right? So the ideal situation really is to have a company or a partner that understands the analytics, the tracking, but also has that flexible element to its TV buying as well, because these insights are only useful if you do something about them. Okay, so in summary, the traditional way of buying TV is changing, which is great news for everybody in this room, because we can start to talk about TV in the same way as we talk about mobile and other kind of ROI-focused acquisition channels. Leave the big expensive stuff to the branding campaigns or the Supercells or the Kings. Mobile-focused TV campaigns can now be judged in mobile terminology, such as CPI, etc., etc. And as always, the solution is in the data. Thank you very much. I will be hanging around later if anyone wants to talk. Thank you.